Hello there, a warm welcome along. It's Chris Reardon, United Kingdom Talk, and I brought the microphone and the camera outside the studio and outside of my garden today. We are in Windsor Great Forest, and I'm sitting on top of a hill, sitting on a bit of wood. Listen, I mean, you can hear the bark. Can you hear me picking away at the bark? There's a piece of bark in my hand, a piece of bark. I'm sitting on this like rather thin log, which actually looks like it's being pushed down by someone, which is a shame. I do hate people damaging trees and things like that, don't you? Anyway, we're up here, and behind me is, well, Bracknell really. Mainly trees and grass. We're that high up that you can only really see the trees and the greenery, although in a distance you can see some of the buildings. I don't know if you're watching the show on YouTube, I'm not quite sure if you can see the buildings or not. And kind of to the right of me, looking downwards, is Bracknell Town Centre with its large, a couple of large tower blocks. We don't have many tower blocks in Bracknell, but there is a couple. And that's where I am today, all right? There we are. I thought it'd be quite nice to come out. To come out of the studio and have a little trip, don't you? Which means, of course, I've also done away with the shirt. I have a white Hackett t-shirt on today, and let me tell you, I do cycle around town most of the time during the day, getting out the car. We can't afford to put diesel in the car all the time, you know, dear. Good God, no. It's all part of the fitness thing, you know. So I usually come out on the bike, and indeed I've come here in the middle of the forest by bike. I couldn't drive here. It's not possible to drive here. There's no roads in here, so it's either walk or cycle. And let me tell you, it's a lot harder cycling through a forest than it is on a road. Oh, dear, dear me. Now, as many times I come up here just for a walk, perhaps on a Sunday afternoon, or maybe if I've got a bit of time during the week or something like that, I will come up here for a walk. And it's all very pleasant. You know, you walk up and down hills, I mean, it's not too bad, but cycling is another thing altogether. It's blooming hard work cycling across bits of gravel and sand. You probably know what I mean if you're a cyclist. There's an email address to the show. If you want to join in at any time, please feel free to do so. My email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Now, coming up in the show, we've got part 4 of The Elves of Iceland, written by Robert in Iceland. It should have been part 4 and 5, okay? We were doing part 4. Now, I know we did half of part 4 on the last show a couple of days ago, right? And today should have been part 4 and 5 because half of part 4 on its own didn't really make sense. So it had to be all of 4 and then 5 together, which would have been today's episode. But are you following this so far, or are you getting confused? But I sat down here on my log, set up my microphone, set up my camera, put the clock down in front of me, got me water over there, went through my papers, and guess what? I haven't brought part 5 with me. How bad am I? It's a liberty, that's what it is, dear. It's a liberty. Go on, blame me. Go on, have a go. Go on, I'm ready for you. Have a go. You silly so-and-so. So it'll only be part 4, and that'll be coming up within the next hour at some point. Okay, now, what was it? I had a little bit of paper here. Something I noticed. Oh, there it is. There it is. Oh, yes. There is this advert on the television at the moment here in the UK, and it's an advert for toilet paper, I believe, all right? And it basically says, it's a little boy, and he says to his mum, I'm going round Paul's house for a poo. That's what he says to his, that's the advert, basically. I'm pretty sure it's for soft toilet paper or something like that, and of course, the boy Paul has got the soft toilet paper in his house, but this other boy hasn't. And that's it. And I don't know, it's just such an awful, tasteless advert. I really do think so. Has anyone else seen that? What do you think? Is it me? Is it me being picky again? I don't mean to be picky. You know me. You know, I accept everyone for everything. But am I being picky? And he comes on, Mum, I'm going round Paul's house for a poo. I mean, how awful is that? Well, it gets worse, because the reason I've brought this up is today I found out that you can now actually download this piece of audio as a ringtone. Yeah, you heard me right. You can actually download this as, do you know, that sun? I can't get the sun in the right place. Oh, there we are. Let's move over there. That's better. I have a feeling I'm in shadows today. Oh, this isn't going to work at all, is it? I should have worked this out before I sat here. Above me is the sun, and I'm surrounded by trees. Incidentally, Windsor Forest is where they filmed parts of Harry Potter. I don't know if you knew that or not. Do you know what? I think I'm going to have to turn this round. I'm going to have to move round. Hello? I can't get... I'm just appearing as a shadow, I think. I don't know. We'll try that. Yeah, and you can now actually download Mum, I'm going to Paul's house for a poo as a ringtone on your phone. Now, can you just imagine being out in a supermarket or perhaps at a church meeting and having your phone suddenly say, Mum, I want to go to Paul's house for a poo. Mum, I want to go to Paul's house for a poo. Sorry, my alarms are going off again now, dude, that's it. I mean, can you just imagine that? I think it's awful. And it's just so completely, utterly tasteless. And why anyone would, I don't even think it's funny, why anyone would want that on their phone, I really don't know. Even my nephew, my older nephew Gary, had it... all the alarms are going off now. Even my nephew Gary had it on his Facebook status update thing the other day. Paul, I'm coming round to your house for poo. I mean, it's just awful. Completely and totally tasteless. Especially if you're sounding at the meat counter in Sainsbury's or somewhere like that, or a supermarket. You don't want something like that. I shouldn't think for one moment that the people running the supermarket want people in their shops. I keep moving here to try and keep in the sun. Oh, God. I knew I should have stayed in the garden. Oh dear, dear me. Let me move round just a minute now. I can't. I don't think this was a good idea at all, was it, boys and girls? Eh? Coming out here in the forest, I don't know. Oh God, how's that? We must carry on like Mummy's brave little soldiers. Anyway, so it got me to thinking when I saw this morning, do you know of any other tasteless ringtones? I've also heard people's ringtones, you got strange noise. For example, I mean, here's my ringtone. It's fairly basic. It's actually the theme music to the show. Listen, you know. Okay? That's my ringtone. Now that's my kind of generic ringtone on my phone. Right, that one. Okay, that's my generic ringtone. Now I do have ringtones for various different people that ring up. Now my sister's one goes like this. Okay, that's actually my sister's and my nephew and my niece's ringtone. So when that goes off, the phone is answered whatever. Okay, always answered in case it's an emergency. My friend Justin, who runs the steam coach in Hemel Hempstead, his mother sometimes rings me for a chin wag, and her ringtone is this. Do you recognise that? Yes, it's Bewitched, because I often call her a witch. My alarm tone is this. It's a nasty grating noise that you can't really ignore. You know, when you hear that tone, you have to respond to it because it's just nasty. Isn't it? All right, now what else have I got here? Let's have a look. Oh, when Gwen rings me up, she gets this one. We love you, Grandma, we do. That's an old Christmas number many, many years ago by St Winifred's School Choir. And that goes out for Gwen. When Ross Patzelt rings up, this one goes off. All right, and that is a piece of music specific to the east of England. That's why Ross has that one off. When my best friend Ronnie rings up, he gets this one.
I feel pretty,
oh so pretty.
I feel pretty and witty and bright.
Because he always thinks that he's really good looking and he is the centre of everyone's attention. Whereas everyone actually knows that I am the centre of people's attention. My friend who's Jewish, he gets this one. You like that one? Very, very Jewish. We like that one. And let me see if there's any others that I want to mention. No. Oh, if I get a text message, which you've heard this many times, this one. Yes. And when posh Wayne rings up, he gets this one, because it's quite posh. Do you like it? And finally, when my friend Grant rings up, he gets this one, because he's a fan of Star Trek. So there we are. A ringtone for each and every person. Do you like that? Eh? Just a little idea I had. I'm wondering... So, I mean, none of those are really very unusual at all, are they? And oh, the sun's moved again. There we are. I'm wondering, kind of, if you know or indeed have any unusual ringtones. I mean, none of those are really very unusual, are they? But nevertheless, they're a bit different. Do you know of any... I mean, you can imagine Ross Patzelt's ringtone, can't you? Now, Ross Patzelt does his own podcast. rosspatzelt.co.uk is where you'll find his. It does carry an X rating on that. Some of the language is very, very colourful on that programme, and we really don't want to use it on this one. Thank you very much. But nevertheless... You can imagine Ross's ringtone is probably like someone burping loudly or passing wind, or perhaps he's got the noise of ring pulls being pulled off beer cans. You can imagine Ross's ringtone, something like that, can't you? Do you have an unusual ringtone? Or indeed, do you know of anyone with unusual ringtones? And do please let me know on the email. If possible, send me a copy. Okay? MP3 and send me a copy to my usual email address, chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Once again, I must apologise if you're watching a show and I keep disappearing into shadows. That's because the blooming sun has the audacity to keep moving while I'm doing my programme. And I'm in the middle of all these trees. And I thought it would be a good idea, but I'm not so sure now because I keep disappearing in... I'm just a silhouette, really. When I'm a silhouette, if I put my nose to one side, you can see that I do have a very large nose. Very, very large nose. What do you mean? Does that mean you've got what? Does that mean you've got a what? Oh, please, dear. Not for this programme, please. It's a sort of chat you hear on Ross Patzelt show, isn't it, eh? Really? So there we are. What do you have as a strange ringtone, or have you been out somewhere? Maybe you've been in a shopping centre and you've actually heard that ringtone. I'm going to do a poo at Paul's house. It's one of the most awful adverts ever I have seen on the telly. It was horrible, horrible. Then let me know, Chris. Come on, or perhaps you've got a singing ringtone. I know my brother-in-law. My sister's husband's brother, David, he had a ringtone on there made by my little nephew, Jimmy, the little one, which says, "Oi, Dave, hurry up and answer the phone. Oi, Dave, hurry up and answer the phone." Which, that's quite a nice one, isn't it? Have you got your children, perhaps, to do your own ringtones? Maybe they've spoken something? Anything at all. Any unusual ringtones. Ringtones that are not the usual da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Have you still got that one? Oh, you haven't still got that one, have you? Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. The Nokia ringtone. We all know that one, don't we? Sing along now. After 3. 1, 2, 3. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Unusual ringtones, I want to know about them. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Now, you're probably wondering why there's no birds singing out here. I'm wondering that as well. Because quite often when I'm in the garden, when we do the show from the garden, you can hear the birds singing. There are no birds singing at all. I can kind of hear the road, which is not too far away. Right, it's kind of down the bottom of the hill and along a bit. I can hear the road. I can't hear a single bird singing. This is why I really wanted to come up here early one morning. You know, sort of 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, just as the sun's coming out. And we would get the atmosphere of the birds singing. It would be beautiful, but I mean, you know, when you go to bed at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to be getting up again at 5 to get up here at 6, do you? Although I suppose I could go the whole hog, couldn't I? Bring up my tea, eh? Bring up tea, bring up my breakfast. We could sit here and have breakfast together, just you and me. Might be nice, but I tell you what, I won't be trying to sit in the sun like I have today. God, it's so much effort. So much effort. Now, in case I leave it very late, as I did on the last show, and we don't finish, then I think we're due now, part 4 of our story written by Robert. You heard half of part 4 yesterday. Today you will hear that half and the other half, but not part 5 because I've left a bit of paper at home. So here we go, part 4 of our story, our little series written by Robert of Iceland, The Elves of Iceland. The troll that was Brownie sat in his house at Upper Street in the town of Reading. He was a very happy chap, for he knew soon that his friend, his only friend, Gorgeous, would soon be knocking on his door after having stopped off for some meat and tatties at the local store. Brownie looked at himself in the mirror and delighted in the reflection. The magic of the Thames River had worked its wonders, and now all but the most careful examination would show his troll heritage. His friend, Gorgeous, was not of the troll race. No, he was a Herbert from the deep, deep Tiggy-Oggy mines on the Isle of Threadneedle. There was a knock upon the door. Brownie says, "Who is it?" "Oh, it's yous, Gorgeous." Gorgeous said, "Oh yes, my lord, it is. I have just returned from checking our secret cache of gold, and it looks oh so pretty and sparkly." Brownie said, "Did anyone see or follow you after you moved it from the Ice Save Cave?" Gorgeous says, "Nay, my lord. I was most careful. It will be safe enough under the shed in Bracknell. It was dangerous, for the house is protected by a cat. And we know that cats are the friends of the elves." Brownie said, "Ooh, I no fear than elves. I have taken their gold and destroyed their puny banks in but a wink of an eye. For I am Brown, the most stupendous troll in all of the world." The ground shook and the windows rattled as his voice roared in power. However, the whole effect was somewhat tempered by a rather loud woof as he broke wind. Poor old Gorgeous fainted and fell to the ground, face first. The paint started to peel from the walls as the smell flowed throughout the house. All of this proved to be the last straw, and the cockroaches that have spent generations in the house had had enough and threw themselves onto bare electric wires. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. A swarm of flies, desperate to escape the pong, crashed with such force into the window that it both shattered and exploded into a million bright slivers of silver. Gorgeous passed from a faint into a deep coma. Brownie had to stop admiring himself in the mirror because the telephone had started to ring. Ding! Well, in truth, it rang once and then gave up because of the stink. Brownie said, "Yes?" Smarty Pants says, "Brownie, I need us to have the word with you. I have heard the elves be planning to take our gold." Brownie said, "Listen, my little French loaf. I know all about them and have my own plans for dealing with them." There we go, part 4. Part 5, I promise you, I cross my heart and hope to die, I promise you will be in the next episode here of United Kingdom Talk. Right, well, let me tell you, not only am I moving around to try and keep in the sun, but I'm now getting extremely uncomfortable on this rather small log. It's, oh, God's sake. You know what I need to get? One of those little stools that you can buy from the camping shop. Actually, there's a camping shop in Bracknell. I wonder if they sell them down there. There's a Millets. There's a Millets down in Bracknell. I might actually go down there and have a little go. Perhaps I can. I don't know. Right, now where are we going now? Let me have a look here. Okay. Hope you're enjoying the story, incidentally. Any comments on it at all, then please feel free to email them in. It's very kind of Robert to offer to do such a thing. No, he's not being paid, but then neither am I, so why should I give him any money? We all do this stuff because we love it, and I think Robert, you may have found a talent there. I could see you writing perhaps go down for a children's book, wouldn't it? It'd be good for a children's book. And you know what? While I was reading that, I suddenly thought, here I am in the forest reading the story about elves. What I should have done, I think, is waited until I had the whole of the story together and then come up here into the forest and recorded the whole thing in its parts and then played it out within the show, you know, sort of, so the whole lot would have been recorded in the forest, perhaps with the birds singing early in the morning. That would have made a nice effect, wouldn't it? It's funny doing all this audio and video stuff, really. You kind of learn as you go along. Right, I'm going to sit on the floor now because I think it's going to be easier than sitting on this bench. Oh, God's sake, it's all such hard work, dear. All hard work. Now, what else are we going to talk about now? Oh, yes, talking of toilet paper, with that advert, Paul, I'm going to do it, Paul, so talking of toilet paper, I am informed, I can't remember who it was, but this is awful, and I don't know if you've ever seen this. I'll tell you what I have seen before, people coming out of a public convenience with toilet paper attached to their shoe. Have you seen that before? Someone said to me the other day, I can't remember who it was who told me now, or indeed who was the unfortunate person who did this, but someone said they actually saw someone coming out of the toilet with a piece of toilet paper still attached to their knickers. Dude. Do be careful, boys and girls, when you come out of that toilet, to remove all the offending articles before you come back in, wherever it was you're going back to. How awful. Now, I'm just gonna actually, I'm more comfortable on the floor than I am oh dear, sitting on that bench. This is blooming hard work, this is out here, I tell you. I thought it was going to be easy. Oh dear, never mind. So we live and learn, don't we? I don't know if I told you, last time we was out here, do you know, it was a year ago since we did a show from here. A whole year. Unbelievable, isn't it? The last time we actually found a lake to do it by, but I came over here Sunday to try and find the lake again, which I did, but there didn't seem to be much water in it, strangely enough. So I thought, you know, you don't want to be looking at an empty thing with a little bit of water in the bottom. So that's why I thought, no, won't bother to do it by the lake. Although there is another lake, which is quite a bit of a cycle ride away. But I wasn't sure that there was anywhere to sit. That's what I'm going to do today. There we are. That's what I'm going to do today, because I'm actually recording this sort of early afternoon. So after this, I'm going to go down to Millet's and see if they've got any of those little stools to sit on. And there's also one of those cheap shops in Bracknell as well. Yeah. See, the only thing is, you know, it's got to be able to get in my bike bag. I've got 2 bags on the back of my bike. There's no point trying to bring a blooming 3-piece suite up here. Although that would be quite camp, wouldn't it? My new settee, my new sofa bed. I could bring that up here perhaps and rest it and do the show. How comfortable would I be? I wouldn't want to leave. I wouldn't want to leave the forest, would I? So there we are. Have you ever seen anyone walking around with bits of toilet paper hanging out of their knickers or anything like that? Isn't that awful? And I bet no one told them either. Now, on the subject of Ross Patzel, I've been listening to his podcast again. And apparently, he listens to my show in bits. I'm not quite sure what you mean. What does he mean by bits? He listens to the show in bits. Not only that, but him and his girlfriend have been watching soft porn on Virgin Media, which I think is terrible. I mean, fancy coming out and telling people that, Ross. We don't want to know what goes on behind your closed doors, dear. Dear, dear me. I bet you're paying as well. I bet you're subscribing to that as well, aren't you? Dreadful. Dreadful. I don't know. Now, oh yes, and an apology. I've got to apologise because 2 or 3 shows ago, after I'd recorded the show in the Britannia studio, I brought the show back into the office and I was editing it, and I suddenly realised the bottom button of my shirt was undone and my belly button was there for all to see. And I'm sorry if this shocked or horrified any of you. Well, I know it wasn't a very pleasant experience, was it? Just seeing that belly button sitting there, protruding on the latest video of United Kingdom Talk. So sorry about that. I did notice that. I'm surprised no one wrote in about that. You should have written in about that. Now, what else have we got here? Yes, some people in the States are mocking the National Health Service, including a British Conservative member of the European Parliament, which is shocking. The NHS is fantastic. It really is. And why we've got a Conservative member of a European Parliament, which the European Parliament is a massive, terrible, terrible waste of taxpayers' money. That's what it is. There's people there claiming money left, right and centre for all sorts of things. It's shocking. Absolutely shocking that such a thing exists. And when there are people in other countries starving, you've got MPs claiming for this, that and the other. Oh yeah, it's one of those, I'm afraid. Anyway, so this Conservative member of the European Parliament was slagging off the NHS the other day. And there were some Americans on there agreeing with him. And I don't understand why. I have a feeling that those were they American politicians? I think they were American politicians. I don't think they realise how well off how wonderfully this country works with its health service type thing. I've said before many times, if you want to call an ambulance out or something like that, it's free. We don't have to pay. It's always free. On the other hand, and this was brought up a couple of times, treatments sometimes are priced, so to speak. So, in America, presumably, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, in America, you have whatever treatment's available, but you will be charged for it. Is that right? And presumably, your insurance covers most types of treatment. Here in the UK, I think treatments are costed. So if one treatment's cheaper than the other, you might get the cheaper one. I'm not quite sure how that works. So there are benefits to the American system as well. If you've got money and you want that sort of treatment, then you just go and pay for it. Whereas here in the UK, I think things are costed. There's been a few stories of people with certain forms of cancer here in the UK that know of a new type of cancer treatment that they want, but their particular area of the NHS refuses to pay for it. If you're in America, presumably you'd just go and do it. So I don't know if anyone can correct me on that one. Do let us know. Chris@UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. We also have stories here in the UK of nurses that are wonderful. I think most of them are. But there are the occasional one who isn't so nice. I was speaking to Gwen on the phone yesterday. She's still not too clever at the moment. She's waiting for some tests and what have you from the doctor to come through. But she was saying her friend was in hospital and the nurse, she had cancer, her friend. And the nurse was awful. Awful. And Gwen went to speak to her about the lady's leg, which appeared to be swelling up. And the nurse jumped down her throat. Don't you think I've got enough things to be doing other than you to keep coming over and telling me what... and all this business. Now, I know nurses are very, very busy. And one of the other things that was said to Gwen was, I've got going over there. That's not my job. She saw the doctor this morning. And she was all right then. That was the answer she got. Which is just awful. I mean, I would have complained about that. Being a nurse, I don't think, is just about the job. You've got to care. You can't just be a nurse as a job. You've got to care for people. And if you can't, you shouldn't be doing the job. I'm fully aware that nurses are underpaid. But you know that before you go into it. Most nurses are fantastic. Any nurses that I've come into contact, bar one, have always been wonderful to me. Wonderful. There was one particular one that I had when I had my burst appendix years ago. Wexham Park Hospital I went to. Everyone was in there lovely, except for this one nurse who wasn't nice. She just was not nice. Funny, isn't it? But you find that through all walks of life. I bet there are some religious leaders out there that you really don't actually like. Perhaps your local priest, you don't really get on with him. But that's not to say that all priests are horrible, nasty people who are full of themselves. Most of them are very caring people. I think most nurses are very, very caring people. But you do get one now and then, and you're thinking, why on earth are you doing this job? Don't you? Nurses are extremely busy. They are underpaid. But you do know that before you go into the job. So if you're one of those who thinks it's just a job, maybe you should get out of it and do something else. You've got to care for people. Don't you think? Most are lovely. Similarly, perhaps you've got stories of nurses that really looked after you. Have you? Let us know about them. Let us know perhaps what hospitals they work in. Email address chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Or maybe there are nurses that weren't so nice. Those stories as well, please. Balance it up. That's it. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk is my email address. All right. Now, some emails coming up in a second. Oh yeah, Ross Patdell was also mentioning this iTunes chart, which I'd heard about before but never really looked at. Basically, all the podcasts that are on iTunes have a chart position somewhere. So I had a look at that. And no disrespect, but there are some podcasts which will remain nameless in the sort of top 20 that I listen to and are blooming awful. Awful. This show, the last time I looked, was round about number 67. Okay, I don't know if that's good or bad. Doesn't bother me. I'm not doing this show to make lots of numbers or go up charts or anything like that. I'm not really very competitive like that. Doesn't bother me. But nevertheless, there were some shows near the top of the chart that are just awful. And I wondered, is there a way of fiddling the charts? How do they get so high in the charts when really the show is not that good? Anyone know that? I'm dying to know how you do that. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Let us know how they do that. Not you. I mean, I'm not saying you do a terrible podcast, am I? Oh dear, the sun's moved again. I'm not doing this again in here. You know, it might look nice behind me. Is there any sun anywhere? Or I think I'm just going to have to rest in darkness now because I'm giving up with this. I'm giving up trying to keep into the sun, and I'm now getting very, very uncomfortable. What's the time? Oh, that's all right. We've got another 20 minutes to do. Well, carry on again like brave mummy's brave little soldier. Emails then, here we go. Hello to Lisa in California, who we haven't heard from a while, have we, Lisa? I thought you'd left me. That happens after a while. People just disappear in a puff of smoke. Maybe the elves drag them away. And they become... Can humans become slaves for elves? Now there's thought. Lisa says, Chris, your garden is lovely. She's been watching the shows on YouTube. Been missing your shows a little over a week due to computer problems. But I am finally now able to catch up. Your nephew's little show was so cute. Yeah, did you see that? My 12-year-old nephew did a little 10-minute video show, and I kind of tagged it onto the end of one of mine. Hope you enjoyed it. No one wrote in about that, only you, Lisa. Did anyone else see that? My nephew's little video show? You must have done. She says, your nephew's little show was so cute. He is such a baby face. Baby face. You got the cutest little baby face. Oh God, the noises have started. Can you do that noise? Go on, have a go. Go on, do it. No, so you've got to throw your head back. Lisa says, I can tell that he is so spoiled with all those toys and things. Yeah, he is actually. Terribly spoiled, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, really. Well, I know it's a bad thing. With such a sweet baby face, I would have a hard time saying no to him, so I don't blame his mum one bit. That's my sister. Keep up the great work on the garden and the show. Hugs, Lisa in California. California, here I come. Thank you, Lisa. Lovely to hear from you, and welcome back. Welcome home. Welcome. Da 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 da. Come on in. Da 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 da. And close the door. Hello to Quinlan Reardon. Now, Quinlan sent me a message on Facebook wondering if we were related. Because Quinlan also gets on the other bus, if you see what I mean. Isn't it strange? Maybe it's a Reardon thing. Maybe all Reardons are puffs. What do you reckon? Do we have any other Reardons watching or listening to the show? Are you one of them? That's the question. And Quinlan writes, "Hi babe. There's nothing wrong with buying clothes from Burton's. It's one of the only places I shop." Yeah. Do you remember I bought 4 pairs of jeans from Burton's, £105? Yes. I've moved out of the tracksuit bottoms, back into jeans. Much to the pleasedness, is that the word? Pleasedness? Much to the delight of my niece Tracy Butler. My little niece, bless her. 21 years old, bless. Quinlan also writes, "I am 38 waist, but not fat. After all, I'm 6'5". God almighty. You're like a tree. You want to be careful when dogs come around your legs. Don't want them weeing up your leg. "I'm not fat at all. I'm 6'5" and built widely, so there's no worries about that. And you're not overweight." Well, I'm a size round about 35.5 waist, okay? Because the 36 jeans, Quinn, they actually do drop down sometimes off my hips. Quinlan also writes, on the subject of viruses, we brought up a question about viruses. Can you have more than one virus in your body at the same time? And Quinn writes, "You can have 2 viruses at once, but not 2 that are related. And can you tell people antibacterial gel does not stop viruses? It just moves the virus round the hand, as it's not antiviral soap. And water is the best thing. So stick off antibacterial." He says, "I'm so sick of antibacterial stuff being bought by companies for its workers when it does not prevent the spread of swine flu. Wash your hands instead and use antibacterial gel only for stopping bacteria spreading, not the viruses. Just something that's doing my head in at the moment. Maybe I should do a show." Maybe you should. And you don't have to do an hour show to start with, Quinn. Okay? Often people say to me, "Oh, I'd like to try my own show." And I would always advise them never to start by doing an hour show. Start off with 5 minutes. Do a 5-minute show. People say, "Oh, I don't know what to talk about." Well, you could either talk about something that interests you, for example, the hand gel, or maybe you could tell us what you've been doing that day. People are interested in what other people get up to. How do you think people like Jordan and Peter Andre make those TV shows? We want to know what they've been... Well, I don't. I mean, it doesn't interest me, but people like to know what other people have been doing. So start off with a 5-minute show. See how it goes, Quinn. I actually spoke to a doctor about this, which I mentioned on a show a few weeks ago. And I said to her, "Is it really is avoiding the swine flu really as easy as washing your hands several times a day? And she said, yes, it is. So there's the proof, really. I see where you're coming from, the antibacterial gel. One must remember, of course, that the antibacterial gel is indeed killing the bacteria. So it is doing some good. But you say, and I don't know if it is true or not, I assume it is, that it doesn't actually kill the viruses. But of course, hot water and soap would do. So once again, you know, I mean, it's the antibacterial, it is actually doing something, because you get plenty of nasty bacteria that you could swallow, don't you? Huh? Coming off food and all that sort of thing. I'm always very careful when I'm handling perhaps chicken breasts or something. I don't actually like to touch them. I buy, I do spend money on food. You know, I'm a little bit tight with myself, but when it comes to food, I try and buy the good stuff. And with chicken breasts, I buy the organic, free-range chicken breasts, usually 2 in a packet. Now, I was buying whole chickens, whole organic chickens, but I find I'll waste a lot, because I only eat the breast, really, and the legs I would always give to the cat. And it takes a long time in the oven as well, about an hour, doesn't it? Whereas chicken breasts, you're in and out in about 20, 25 minutes. We'll have to do another cookery show, I think. Defo, cookery with Chris. But I open the packet with a sharp knife, and then I kind of get the end of the knife and poke it in the bit of chicken and put it onto the cooking tray without even touching it, and straight in the oven. Then I put the chicken back in the fridge, and you must always put raw chicken, indeed raw meat, in the bottom of the fridge. Because the last thing you want is the juices to flow out of that and drip down onto, I don't know, strawberries or butter in the fridge. That will give you a very nasty stomach bug if there's anything dodgy in that chicken. By not actually touching the chicken and putting it straight in the oven and cooking it for the recommended time, you will kill everything that's in there, everything nasty that's in there, as long as you cook it enough. You know, so you've got to be very careful on that. And I always, even then, I always wash my hands straight away afterwards, after I've touched anything like that, because it can be very, very nasty. You can die from food poisoning, of course. You know, food, what is food poisoning? That's when you eat bugs, isn't it? And you don't actually have to eat something, do you? I mean, you could have been cooking the chicken, right? You could have grabbed that raw piece of chicken out of the fridge, put it in the oven, then wiped your mouth with the same hand, and you've got the bugs on there, and they've gone in your stomach, and you still haven't eaten the bit of chicken. That's where the terrible food preparation. This is why you have to be so careful when you're out buying stuff to eat. I'm very, very wary when I go out and buy. Even, I suppose, you know, when you buy a sandwich from the petrol station on the way home or something like that. And yeah, okay, it's in that little plastic wrapper and it's kept cool in the fridge and that. But you don't know, really, what the people were doing when they made that sandwich. I mean, of course, there are all sorts of rules and regulations set by the government and what have you, and the health people, about how sandwiches should be made and packaged. But how do you know that for sure? How do you know that Mr. Smith, who just made those sandwiches, hasn't just been to the toilet and didn't wash his hands? Or how do you know that someone hasn't sneezed all over it? You just don't know, do you? So, I mean, it's very, very worrying, you know, buying all that stuff like that. But what do you do? I mean, there's many times I go travelling on the way home and stop for a bag of crisps and, I don't know, sort of a ham and cheese sandwich or something like that. Do you? Have you ever caught anything off, what is it? Cyclist going past. And did you hear that? There was a cyclist going past. How exciting. Have you ever caught anything like that off a meal you've had out? The other thing is, of course, you know, if you've had breakfast, lunch, and then you go out for a meal, how do you, and you get food poisoning, how do you know which one of those 3 meals gave you the food poisoning? You don't know, do you? You don't. I tell you what, the last 3 weeks I've had a bit of a funny stomach. and it's happened 3 times now where I've had bad stomach cramps. I meant to tell you this on the last show. The first time it hurt. The third time it hurt, but it was kind of, and it did hurt a lot. I mean, I've never had these before. Really painful, and you're kind of doubled over and rubbing my tummy, hoping that that's going to help, and it doesn't. Right? But I have to say, on those 2 occasions, it was tolerable. But the second time it happened, well, I thought I was going to pass out. So I don't know what's causing that. And it was at the same time every time. Usually, I go to bed around about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And on all 3 occasions, it happened about 45 minutes to an hour after I'd been asleep for a little while. And then I woke up, oh, here we go again. So I'm not quite sure what that is. It seemed to be cured. I won't be graphical. It lasted about 10 minutes on all 3 occasions, and then it just stopped. Helped by sitting on the toilet. So I don't know what's going on there. It also occurred after I'd had a meal. Now, the meals, one of them was quite large, one of them was just strawberries and ice cream, so don't know if it's that. Very strange, bit of stomach cramp there. Should ring up the doctor really and ask, shouldn't I? Anyway, nice to hear from you there, Quinn. Thank you for that information. The antibacterial gel, yes, of course, it does kill bacteria, but we're not sure whether it kills viruses or things like that. But always best to wash your hands several times a day. Not just when the swine flu is around, but always. Always be doing that. And you kind of get yourself into a routine in the end. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not at home all the time washing my hands. Once I'm at home, that's it. I wash my hands when I get in, that's it. Don't keep washing my hands. But certainly when I'm at work, because I meet a lot of people, and God knows what they've all got coming up and spreading their germs all over me, dear. I mean, I could be another Michael Jackson, I think, and walk around in a plastic bubble with a face mask on. Perhaps that's the only way to do it. I don't know. Your thoughts on that, please, Chris at United Kingdom Talk.co.uk. Let's have a look here. Oh, yes, Ross Pads Outrights. He rang me up the other day. Have you read my email out? No, not yet, Ross. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We fell a bit behind. Ross sent this in about 2 weeks ago on the subject of jeans. I don't think I've ever paid full price for a pair of jeans, Ross says. I tend to buy them from Tesco's or somewhere like Madhouse, and I don't think I've ever paid more than £10 for a pair of jeans. That's okay. That's fine, Ross. He says, granted, they only last about 1 or 2 years when wearing them around the house or down the pub. My uncle paid about £40 a couple of years ago for a pair of half-price Levi. Something just fell on my head then. Just a minute. That's not bird poo, is it? No, it's not. Well, it was just some... No, it's nothing. I wonder what that was then. Just a minute. Let me smell. No, there's nothing on my head. I'm sure something just dropped down onto my head. A little dewdrop or something like that. A little dewdrop. My uncle paid £40 a couple of years ago for a pair of half-price Levi's, and he says, when I asked him once if they had ripped or showed wear on them, and he said no, Levi's will last for years, so we'll treat myself next time to a good pair like Levi's. Now, I have a pair of Levi's on today, actually, size 36 waist, and the last time I was 36 waist was about 8 years ago. So yes, they do last for years. I've still got jeans in my cupboard, Ross, sizes 32 and 34 waist, which I may, I don't know, never wear again, I don't know. But they will stay in the cupboard because, yes, Levi's last for years and years and years, okay? Now, you know that pair of G-Star jeans I've got that I paid £90 for. Now, I only bought those a while ago. But certainly, yes, the quality of the material is very, very thick. I cannot see them falling apart for years. I mean 20, 30 years possibly. So yeah, I mean if you buy the dearer ones, you will get them to last a lot longer. But I still think there's nothing wrong with buying pairs of jeans that are 15, 10, 15 pounds. I mean, a lot of the quality of those is pretty good as well, isn't it? Ross says, here's an idea. I've been thinking of an idea for your show. I tend to listen to the show in my van at work and then always forget to email in later with my comments on what you talk about. So I've thought this. How about getting one of those free SMS cards or SIM cards that sometimes you see advertised, then put it in an old phone and put the minimum top-up of it and give out a mobile number on the show for people to text in comments as they are out and about, or they can leave a voicemail on there. You don't have to have it turned on all the time, just when you want to see if anyone's left a message. Just an idea I may try on my show. And that's from Ross Patzelt and his podcast, once again, rosspatzelt.co.uk. Like that idea very much, Ross. And right now, I'm going to go down to the shops. And number one, I'm going to see if I can find a little stall, a little portable stall to take around and sit on them. And maybe we can do a few more shows outside as long as the sun's in the right place. It's moved again, isn't it? And so I'm leaning to the side. And number two, I'm going to see if I can get one of those SIM cards. I think one of those pay-as-you-go SIM cards. Blooming good idea, that, Ross. Well done. 100 marks for you, sir. And that's it from the show today. Coming to you from Bracknell Forest, or Windsor Great Forest, I think we're in. I'm never quite sure of the name of this place. The email address, chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Part 5 of Robert's The Elves of Iceland in the next show. From myself, Chris Reardon. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.